So you recently found yourself interested in watches and went sliding down the rabbit hole of YouTube watching, pun intended, video after video, and still you're a bit lost on the lingo? Then this video is for you. Welcome to Watch Basics 101 for the newbie enthusiast, where I'm going to break down all the basics of a wristwatch and have you sounding like a pro the next time you walk into an AD. And by AD, I mean authorized dealer. First off, what exactly is a watch in 2024? We all know that it's a tool for telling time, but realistically, it's not about time at all. It's a statement. It's a piece of art. It's an engineering marvel that you get to wear on your wrist. And if you're like me, you get a hit of dopamine almost every single time you look at it. Add in the fact that a watch can tell the world an awful lot about who you are, and I would say it's a very powerful thing, and every man should have one. If you're a newbie, I think understanding the components will not only help you appreciate the craftsmanship, as well help you understand how to go about finding the perfect watch for yourself. Number one, let's get started with the case. The case is the outer shell that houses the internal components of the watch, usually made of metals like stainless steel, titanium, or precious metals such as gold or platinum. You can find them in ceramic or carbon, but for the most part, it's always going to be some sort of metal. When you hear the term case measurement, 40, 41, 44 millimeters, this is the size of the case from the left to the right, not including the crown. The crown is the knob that's located on the right-hand side of the watch. It serves multiple functions depending on the complication of the watch, but for the most part, it's used for setting the time, setting the date, and winding the watch if the watch is a manual movement. The protruding metal pieces you see beside the crown are called the crown guards. When determining the size of a watch, you will often hear three different measurements: the case size, the case thickness, and the lug to lug. The lugs are the protruding pieces that are on the top and the bottom of the watch case, where the strap or the bracelet attached to the watch. While all three measurements are important, it's almost always that you hear case size and only case size. And in my opinion, there's a massive flaw with determining whether a watch is right for you simply by the case size. Not all watches that are 40 millimeter wear the same, and in fact, some aren't even close. For this reason, I think the lug to lug is the single largest factor to a watch fitting correctly. Now, of course, this is a personal taste thing, but a watch should go around your wrist. You can get away with having a larger case as long as the lug, say like on the Omega, you'll hear me speak about a lot, has a shorter lug to lug distance. As long as it allows the band to wrap around your wrist and not overhang, I would say that that watch correctly fits you. Case thickness is measured from the case back to the crystal. So let's go ahead and knock those two parts out. The case back is kind of self-explanatory. It's the piece that screws and in some cases pops into the back of the case to protect the movement. The crystal is the glass that protects the dial and the hands, the face of the watch. Acrylic, mineral, sapphire. Acrylic crystals are just plexiglass basically. You'll find acrylic crystals on a lot of vintage watches. They scratch really easy, but as long as the scratches are not too deep, they also polish out well and are pretty easy to make look brand new again. Mineral crystals, while stronger than acrylic, they're not nearly as strong as sapphire, but kind of the same thing. They can be polished as well, and you'll usually find those on more of a mid-tier range, price range watch. Sapphire crystals are the most durable and scratch resistant crystal, but they are also at the same time the most expensive. They cannot be polished, so if you get them scratched, the entire crystal has to be replaced. I would say that just about any modern watch that has a quality standard, any mid-tier or above watch is going to come with a sapphire crystal. Although there are exceptions, for example, the Omega Speedmaster Professional has the Hesalite, basically plexiglass crystal. Due to the fact that it was designed for space use and NASA did not want glass in case it was broke. They did not want glass floating around on the space shuttle. Underneath the crystal lies the dial and the hands, and it's just my opinion, but this is the place where manufacturers have a real opportunity to shine aesthetically. Dials can come in many different colors, and depending on the movement can have a lot going on, such as sub dials, date, day, even a moon phase to keep track of the moon all month long. The one thing the dial will always have, no matter the complication, are hour and minute markers, also referred to as indices. Sometimes they are printed on, sometimes they are applied. If they're applied, they will have this really cool raised 3D effect. Some watchmakers even go as far as hand painting their dials. A good example of that would be Grand Seiko. And while you think the hands may not matter aesthetically, this could not be further from the truth. Case in point, take a quick look at Tudor. Tudor calls these hands the snowflake. And you either love them or you hate them. I don't think there's an in-between for people, but you have to admit they play a massive role in the aesthetics of the watch. And by the way, being that we live in a digital age, I am aware that some younger people have never learned how to read a watch. So for you, I will make a short and post it. So please check out the channel and consider subscribing while you're there. Now that I've mentioned strap and bracelet repeatedly, if it's metal, it is a bracelet. Bracelets can be found on just about any style of watch, from dress watch to sports watch and everything in between. If it's leather, typically leather is found on dress watches, and that is a strap. Another strap is the NATO strap, invented by the British military to prevent losing the watch if the spring bar were to break. The spring bar being the bar that attaches the strap to the watch case. And if it's rubber, for the most part, rubber is only used on watches that are meant to spend most or at least part of their life on the water. And again, it's all personal taste. I personally have a ball watch that leans a little more dressy, and I keep a rubber band on it, and I think it looks perfect. Okay, so the piece that secures the strap or bracelet is called a clasp or a buckle. If it folds and snaps together, it is a clasp. And if it has a pin that hooks through a hole, kind of like on a belt, then that would be a buckle. And finally, we have come to the movement. This is, as they say, where the magic happens. I'm gonna make this brief because this is a topic that can go on for a lifetime. There's basically 4 types of movements. There's a quartz movement, manual movement, automatic movement, and digital. There are also hybrids such as the spring drive from Grand Seiko, but like I said, that conversation could go on forever. It's like talking motors to a car guy or cameras to a photographer. It's never ending. Quartz movements use a battery to power the watch. While not necessarily as complicated as a mechanical, quartz movements are the most accurate movement in the world. The movement can instantly be recognized by its ticking second hand. On mechanical watches, the tick is much, much faster and makes it appear as if the second hand is sweeping. It is commonly mistaken knowledge that you can tell if a Rolex is real by the fact that it has a sweeping hand, and this is absolutely untrue. All mechanical and automatic watches have a sweeping like second hand. While quartz movements are typically not desired among collectors, they can be found in many iconic brands. Breitling has an entire line called the Professional line that contain quartz movements. I personally own a Longines with a quartz movement. The movement requires pretty much nothing at all. Drop a battery in it and go. No maintenance, and they're built like a tank. So that brings us to automatic. An automatic movement is without a doubt the favorite movement in the world amongst enthusiasts. Go to any watch forum and you will see newbies celebrating the purchase of their first automatic watch, and collectors almost gleefully congratulating them on the purchase. Everything about the automatic celebrates the heritage, the craftsmanship, the engineering, the beauty of watchmaking. While nearly everything about these movements are simply unpractical, while they are not as accurate as quartz movements are, they need to be taken far greater care of. They cost a lot more, and there's a cost of ownership by way of having to have them serviced. The list could probably go on, but to be honest, it doesn't matter, because when you drop a 700 horsepower engine into a Mustang, you are not looking for practical. And with that said, just remember, this is just the basics. We haven't even begun to talk about complications. finally, that brings us to mechanical or manual wound watches. The main difference between the mechanical and the automatic is the mechanical watches need to be hand wound to maintain power. This is the oldest movement and still uses the mainspring to power the watch, but the lack of rotor means that you have to hand wind the watch. A great example of this movement is, and one of my favorite watches, the Omega Speedmaster Professional, with the newest movement being the 3861. Omega used the manual wind because the automatic needed gravity to work, and quartz, while invented in 1927, had yet to be released in a wristwatch yet. That would take place a few months later on Christmas Day 1969, I believe, when Seiko released the Astro. That move by Seiko was it was the start of what became known as the quartz crisis, which pretty much almost ruined the artisanship of watchmaking forever. I could do a video on that all to its own. So, and you probably thought there was nothing to choosing a watch. There's a lot to consider, such as, you know, purpose. Is it going to be an everyday wear? Is it for a special occasion? I would say the style. Do you prefer a classic look, a modern look, maybe something sporty? What about the size? What size is right for me? Pricing. Watches can range anywhere from a few bucks to, oh my God, you can buy a house for that. What features are important to you? Do you want a chronograph? Do you need time only? Do you spend a lot of your time on the water? Do you need heavy water resistance? Where to purchase? Should I go with an AD? Should I go gray market and save a few bucks? Maybe let the first purchaser eat the equity and buy pre-owned. Not to worry, because I have already made a video addressing all of this right here somewhere. I'll link it. I guess there you have it. Watch Basics 101. If you're still here and you've retained all of the information that I've thrown at you in this video, I would say that you are well on your way to becoming a watch addict, and welcome to the family. If you found the video helpful in any way, give it a thumbs up. I hope that you will consider subscribing, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.